What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well, having a good Thursday, the 2nd of May. We are back for another morning view to discuss all that's going on in the world of Manchester United. We got transfer stuff, we got manager stuff, we got player stuff, we got sporting director stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world of Manchester United, certainly at the moment, and we're going to be going through all of it and dissecting it and getting a lot of opinion this morning. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope everyone is doing very well. Be sure to click the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know where you're watching from in the world, what time it is, old school United View, what the weather is like where you are as well, because I woke up this morning. I got the sleepy dust out of my eyes, which is still probably there. It always is. I'm not a morning person, which is not ideal when you do a show called The Morning View. But I looked out of my window and I saw, sunny skies, blue skies. It's meant to be quite nice here in the UK today. So, yeah, let me know where you're watching from and let me know what it's like where you are as well. I can see people in the chat this morning. I can see Steffi Jenks says bonjour. Big up DJ's in the chat. He says big up as well. Daniel Luciano says morning. Owen, big up UV fam. All Elite says a bit stormy, a bit stormsy here in Oakwood. That fella says that thunderstorm last night in London was a mazza. Woke me up twice. What else are people saying here? Starlord says the chat is going off. Big up United District. Says morning, Owen, morning to the guys at United District, of course. What the Devil, coming out later today, 6 p.m. Be sure to check that out as well. HJ says, what? Owen, it's grey here. Fat Thor says, good day, everyone. 4 p.m. in Singapore, dark and cloudy, finally, as well. George says, sun shining, and it's Scotland. Amazing, as well. See, look, we got a global community. Diverse. Yes, diverse stuff. You got Kristen saying sunny in Colchester as well. We've got so much to get into this morning. We're going to be talking about Jadon Sancho following his performance last night for Borussia Dortmund in their semi-final first leg victory over PSG, 1-0. Absolutely destroyed the left-back Mendes for PSG, didn't he? And obviously that's raised a lot of debate and discussion about his future at Manchester United, his future at Dortmund. There's been some comments from Fabrizio Romano, from Jadon Sancho himself, some online stuff too, which we'll get into all of it because, again, it's really opened the door for that debate. But what I want to try and do when talking about Jadon Sancho this morning is not just talk about him and his case specifically, but what it means more. Like, what's the bigger picture here? What does it say more about Manchester United? What is it an indicator of, if that makes sense? Because I think if you focus just on this specific situation, then maybe you can kind of get lost what maybe is sort of the bigger message at play here. So we're going to be chatting about that. We're also going to be chatting a little bit more, I know people are going to get upset, about INEOS and Erik ten Hag, because there was a little piece in, there's two actually really interesting articles from The Athletic yesterday, both from Adam Crafton. One talking about sort of INEOS taking over more of sort of the business operations at Manchester United and some of the things they're doing, some of the cutbacks they're doing, trying to reduce spending and what have you. And there was a couple of interesting lines in both of those articles. One about the future of Ten Hag, which is kind of more of the same of what we already know at the moment. And another one, really interestingly, about Dan Ashworth and actually how Sir Jim Ratcliffe's pretty confident that Ashworth's going to be a Manchester United employee fairly soon, despite this sort of arbitration process coming up between Ashworth and Newcastle. So there is so much to get into this morning. So as I said, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, and get your opinions in, because it's going to be an opinion-filled morning, certainly. Let's start off talking about Jadon Sancho. So, Jadon Sancho, if you were watching football last night, if you were watching the Champions League game, Borussia Dortmund faced off against PSG in the first leg of the Champions League semi-final, the second semi-final, of course, after the Bayern and Real Madrid game, and Dortmund won that game 1-0. I think it was far from a 1-0 game, wasn't it? My goodness me, it was a fantastic watch. You could certainly say about both semi-finals were excellent matches to watch. You know, the Champions League has received a bit of criticism this season for being boring, but really from what the quarterfinal stages onwards, the quarterfinals in the previous round were fantastic. The semi-finals this round have been excellent to watch, and last night was no different. As I say, a 1-0 game, but my goodness me, it could have been any scoreline. Definitely Dortmund could have had at least a couple more goals. They maybe could have had a penalty. PSG missed some absolute sitters in that game as well. I'm still leaning towards, I think, PSG win. I think even though Dortmund did well last night, 1-0 home advantage, I think in the second leg going back to Paris, I think PSG might win that one. But again, Jadon Sancho was excellent last night. He was going past defenders, doing incredible passes, looking dangerous. As I said, the left back for PSG was oh my goodness me, he was a mess. He couldn't handle Jadon Sancho on the right hand side, interestingly, and it's led to a lot of conversation about his future. So starting off with this stat from Fabrizio Romano saying Jadon Sancho with 11 successful dribbles versus PSG tonight, the most completed by a player in a Champions League match this season. Borussia Dortmund want to negotiate and keep Sancho at the club next season, as reported earlier this week. Talks to follow with Manchester United. Now, what did happen last night as well is the hope of the Premier League getting that extra Champions League spot evaporated. It is gone. In the same way that Manchester United definitely aren't going to be getting Champions League football next season, the Premier League also is definitely not going to be getting that extra spot in the Champions League. And Fabrizio Romano said, the 5th Champions League spot for Germany is excellent news for Borussia Dortmund. Dortmund are currently 5th in the Bundesliga, and the access to Champions League is crucial for their budget. Now, you could say, well, what's this got to do with Manchester United? Well, it's got to do with Jadon Sancho and their pursuit of him in the summer, because Romano says he understands that Dortmund will try to keep both Ian Maatsen and Jadon Sancho with this fresh Champions League budget, with these fresh funds from the Champions League. Of course, that's been the point of contention quite a lot as well, hasn't it? That Jadon Sancho is on high wages, he'd be worth quite a bit of money. Can Dortmund afford that? Well, now that they look likely to qualify for the Champions League and they've had a late run into this year's competition, maybe now the funds will be there. He was asked after the game, Jadon Sancho, if he was staying at Dortmund next season or going back to Manchester United. And as one would expect, Jadon Sancho in his interview with CBS Sports says, I really don't know. I'm focused on the present right now. And also there was this post I wanted to bring up from Dortmund's UK Twitter account at Black and Yellow, saying, you all owe him apology. We were always familiar with his game. And when I saw this, I said, good. If you're that familiar with his game and his game's that great, I'm sure you have no problem paying the appropriate amount for him in the summer. Because now, if Dortmund say, oh, well, we can't afford that much money, if he's so great, you'd be happy to pay the money for him, wouldn't you? We'll wait and see how that one plays. But it's opened the conversation, hasn't it, about Jadon Sancho and his performance last night, and if it's changed people's minds on him, and if it makes Manchester United look bad, if it makes Erik ten Hag look bad, and why has Jadon Sancho played better, basically. And it's funny, isn't it, because I did see, as is I suppose the norm at this point, a lot of point scoring last night. See, I was right about him. See, this person was wrong about him. See, he's great. He was not rubbish. People said he's rubbish and he's terrible and he's this and he's that. Blah 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 blah. I think it's worth stressing and worth pointing out, if people weren't aware anyway. Jadon Sancho's not rubbish. Like he's never been rubbish. He's never been a terrible football player. He's never been he's not good. He's never been good. There's a reason why Manchester United pursued him for 2 years. There's a reason Manchester United paid a large amount of money, not as much as Dortmund were asking the first time around, but there's a reason Manchester United paid all that money, and there's a reason why he came to Manchester United, because he's a good player. So the question then becomes, well, why are we seeing a different Jadon Sancho at Dortmund to the one that we've seen at Manchester United? Why? Why the huge difference? And obviously, there's not one definitive reason, is there? There's not one definitive, this is the exact reason, right? It's because of this person, it's because of this, it's because of this. You've got to boil it down to one thing. The reason he's not at Manchester United at the moment is a falling out with the manager. But the reason why it hasn't worked out at Manchester United for me, it's a combination of things, isn't it? I think the environment is one critical aspect of Jadon Sancho's story. There's obviously a big environmental issue at Manchester United, isn't there? I mean, there's a reason why so many players, big players or promising players, have come to United and they failed. And there's also a reason why several established players have come to Manchester United and they failed. So obviously Manchester United should look internally towards themselves, go, okay, why is that? Why can't we have the most appropriate conditions for people to succeed? Obviously, there's an environmental issue at that club. But when you're talking about the environment as well, the environment at Manchester United is far different to the environment at Borussia Dortmund, because at Dortmund, you look at that team last night on paper that started the game against PSG, and you're looking at names that stand out to you, and there are names in that team that are well known, but in terms of the biggest name, it would be Jadon Sancho on that team sheet, wouldn't it? He is a big fish in a small pond. And I don't mean to put Borussia Dortmund down, because obviously Dortmund are a massive club. They've won the Bundesliga. They're in the Champions League semi-final this season. They've been in the Champions League final more recently than we have as well. So it's not to say, and they nearly won the Bundesliga last season too. So it's not to say, Dortmund they're a small club, but he is a big fish in a smaller pond. Whereas when he's at Manchester United, he is another player, isn't he? There's several big players, several big name players there. And I think being that big fish in a small pond, I think suits him. And then you look at other factors as well. You look at the system. If you watched him play last night, maybe he didn't have to be as defensively disciplined as he would be in other systems as well. I think you saw last night, I mean, obviously he still tracks back, gets in his shape. But I mean, the sort of expectation of, when you're at, Manchester United and maybe in the current system at Man United, where it's like, no, you've got to come back, you've got to support your fullback, you've got to be doing this, you've got to be winning the ball back. It's not really the case in that system. He doesn't have to do as much of it, and he gets more freedom in the Dortmund system, which again suits him. I think last night also as well dispelled the idea of he cannot play on the right-hand side, because he played on the right-hand side and he just completely destroyed their fullback, to the extent that maybe next week PSG might make some changes when it comes to that. So once again, it suits him. So already you've got two things that suit him. The environment is better suited to Jadon Sancho, and sort of the culture at Dortmund is better suited to Jadon Sancho. The system is better suited to Jadon Sancho as well. The pressure, let's be completely honest here, the pressure and scrutiny of playing at Dortmund, it's not the same as it is at Manchester United, which again, I think suits him. How many times do we talk about the media? How many times do we talk about, the level of, if you misplace one pass in a Manchester United team, we as fans will talk about it. We'll talk about it for a week. Be like, that pass or that performance, blah, blah, blah. The pressure and the scrutiny is on another level at Manchester United as well. So I think the pressure and scrutiny isn't as high at Dortmund, which once again suits him. You look at the coach. The coach, he's working with a coach that he has worked with before, he has a positive relationship with, he has been successful with before. Some of his best times in his career was working with this coach. The coach knows how to get the best out of him, has a great relationship with him. They've got a positive history, which once again, it suits him. So everything there suits him. And as I've said many a time since he's moved to Borussia Dortmund, because whenever he plays well, people try and do the whole, look, see. He is in the best place for him right now. Jadon Sancho is in the perfect environment for Jadon Sancho to succeed. And as a fan of the English team, as a fan of football, I want to see young players succeed. I want to see, as an Englishman, I want to see English players succeed. That last night was the best I've seen Jadon Sancho play since he played for Dortmund before. It's better than any Man United performance I can probably see, considering the circumstances, the stage, and what have you. And that's under every manager he's played under. Whether that's Ollie, whether that's Ralph, whether that's Carrick for a couple of games, whether that's Erik ten Hag. So I don't think it's just an Erik ten Hag thing. Obviously, there's massive disagreements between the two. But I think it's a Manchester United thing. Manchester United and Jadon Sancho, they're just not the right fit. They are just not the right fit. Now, I would also stress that his performance last night doesn't eclipse, obviously whilst it's eclipsed every performance he's probably done in a Manchester United shirt, it doesn't make it disappear. That's also the other thing. I've seen a lot of people being like, they've just forgot the last sort of 3 years of Jadon Sancho at Manchester United. It's one performance. It's a very impressive performance. It's on a big stage, but we can't just forget the past, blindly forget it. We can't just go, oh, it never happened. Like that never happened. You know, we cannot do that either. If I was an advisor or if I was an agent for Jadon Sancho right now and I was talking to him about his future, I would say to him, mate, you are exactly where you need to be at this point in time. Jadon Sancho, for a long time now, has been nowhere near the national team. If he continues to play like that, if he continues to put in positive performance for Dortmund, he'll work his way back. He's in a place with the optimal conditions for Jadon Sancho to succeed. Conditions which, by the way, I don't think he'll ever get at Manchester United as well. And if you are Manchester United, I think last night's great news. I think that's great news for Manchester United because I don't think he'll come back. I still wouldn't bring him back because I don't think Manchester United is the best environment for him. I think too much has happened. I think that at a time we're talking about resetting and looking towards the future, I don't think it's the right thing to dig up the past. I don't think he wants to be at Manchester United again as well. And a lot has happened. And if we're talking about Erik ten Hag staying, then Jadon Sancho is definitely not coming back. If he goes, again, I still think it'd be a risky decision considering what's happened. And we've got to be forward-facing. We've just got to move on. So I think last night's great news for Manchester United, really, because I think now you look at a player that his value has exploded more so than it was a couple of weeks ago because he's done a fantastic performance on a big stage. Dortmund have got more money because it's looking like they're going to be in the Champions League next season with the 5th place. So now Manchester United can negotiate a bit harder, get some more money. And it's best for all parties that that United can work out a deal with Dortmund that everyone's happy with, that Man United are happy with, that Jadon Sancho is happy with, that Dortmund are happy with. We get as much money as we possibly can. And we move on. That's really kind of it. I don't, like I said, for me, it doesn't change anything about his sort of United career because that's what I sort of, I saw the conversation about. Should he be brought back? Should he be coming back? No, not really. I'm good. I wanted him to do well at Dortmund. You want to raise the value. You want to see a player enjoying his football. And does it reflect really, really badly on Erik ten Hag? Players fall out with managers a lot. Does it define the manager as a bad manager and the player as a bad player, or does it just work out that it didn't work out? I think it didn't work out. That's my kind of viewpoint on it, and I hope he does well. I've always hoped he does well. I don't want to see any player go away with Man United. I hope they fail. I hope this manager gets sacked. I hope this player never recovers his best form. Why live in sort of bitterness when it comes to that? Again, I still wouldn't have him back. I still think there was issues at Manchester United that I don't think that can be resolved, really. And he's in the best environment for him. I think Manchester United do need to look internally towards themselves and go, there's a reason why a lot of players are coming to Manchester United and failing. But I think that process is ongoing at the moment because I think that's what INEOS are doing. That's why they're bringing in these new executives. That's why they're overhauling the football side of things. But those conditions that Sancho is going to succeed under and is succeeding under at Dortmund, I don't think he'll ever get those at Manchester United. I don't think you can. He certainly wouldn't be the big fish in a small pond at Manchester United. I mean, my goodness me, that Manchester United is the ocean in comparison to the pond, isn't it? The scrutiny is huge, and the shirt and the badge is very, very heavy, and the media scrutiny is on another level. And you're just not going to get those things, that environment that he gets at Dortmund to succeed, in my opinion. But now, I don't think Dortmund are in the position to be sort of haggling, really. I think that they're not Man United now are like, well, if you really want him, here we go, because there's going to be a lot of other clubs interested too. But I think Dortmund will be the place he wants to be. A couple of super chats here. Let's get into this as well. I'll read some of your comments in the live chat as well in just a second. Ray says, Sancho shows he's a mercenary. He never once showed up for us. It's best we move on for him as well. Ryan says, Ollie, Ranić, Ten Hag all played transition football at United, hence Jadon has struggled. Sancho under Tuchel in a possession-based system cooks. Harry says, Sancho was good last night, but people are getting carried away, making it as if he single-handedly carried Dortmund the entire season. It was literally one good game over 2 years or so. And that's also what I'm trying to say as well. And the problem is when you go, it's one good game, people perceive that as you're putting that performance down. You're saying, Jadon Sancho, as I said, is not rubbish. He's never been like rubbish, a terrible footballer. He had a fantastic game last night. But does it change the past of Manchester United? No. Does it add a bit of extra context to it? Maybe. In Europe for Dortmund, he's done well since he's gone there this season. In the Bundesliga, Dortmund, and I guess Sancho by proxy, have kind of struggled a little bit this season. But it's a game that's widely viewed, isn't it? It's a game that's viewed by everyone across Europe and I suppose the globe as well. Champions League semi-final. So it gets more attention than, say, your weekend Bundesliga match or something like that. So that's why, it's getting, I suppose, discussed about more. But as I've said, for me, it doesn't change my opinion on the whole thing as well. I'm not going, he definitely has to come back and he definitely and Ten Hag definitely has to be sacked because of what happened last night. No, it's just I looked at it as a positive for United in terms of, I looked at it as a positive for Sancho. I looked at it as a positive for United. He's back to playing closer to what he should be. And Manchester United can ask for more money. We were talking about how Sancho might have to go for like 30 million in January when he went on loan because he hasn't played for so long. Now, my goodness me, now let's start talking about 50s and possibly 60s, something like that. Still a young guy. So I think that's a positive for Manchester United. SSS says, Beckham and Fergie had the same type of story as Sancho and Ten Hag and both ended winning their leagues afterwards. No need to blame Ten Hag. Like I said, I think people kind of framed it as it looks really bad, and I've seen you see big accounts and big people doing this. It reflects really badly on Erik Ten Hag, but managers and players can fall out often, don't they? And they can both go on to be successful. Now, whether that means Sancho's going to be successful at Dortmund, because they still could go out of the Champions League, couldn't they, and finish fifth, and then you go, we'll see what see what kind of happens in the future. Ten Hag, he could win an FA Cup this season, or he could lose his job, or he could keep his job and not win the FA Cup, and it just that happens in football, doesn't it? People, it just doesn't work out, and I think that's the best way to put it with Jadon Sancho, and he's in the best place for him right now. SK says, I think you echo the sentiment well. United was probably too much for him. He just needed to wait one game, if you remember the Antony injury, for his chance. Wish him all the best at Dortmund, but pay up. And that's kind of really it. I think so. I think that, like I said, when I was watching the game last night, and I was just sort of thinking more about, why is this happening? Why is he succeeding? I think people just look at it as, he played really well last night, so it looks really bad. And you go, all right, let's scale it back a little bit. Why? Why the change? Because it's not just happened for no reason, obviously. Why the change? And the sort of, I think, natural and logical conclusion is, well, a lot of different things. The environment, the media, the coach, the system, and all of these sort of things you're talking about. You go, well, will that happen at United? And you go, well, no, I don't think so. Will this happen at United? No, I don't think so. Will that happen at United? Probably not, And then there's all the sort of baggage that's come with, the fallout and how it was played out in the media and what have you, and two people standing their ground because they both think they're right. And you just go, well, that's just not going to happen at United. So I do hope he does well. Like I said, I don't want to see any player or have resentment to any player. I hope he goes there, and I hope he fails completely and miserably, particularly when he's on loan from us still, because we're going to need the money in the summer. Harry says Erik Ten Hag has maintained that he never doubted Sancho's quality, just his attitude. He did say that in the press conference, didn't he? Saying that he had no doubts about Sancho's ability. That wasn't the problem there as well. What else are people saying here in the chat at the moment? Will says, we had 30 months of Sancho at United and he did little to nothing at our club. That's just the facts of the matter. And that's also kind of my point as well, that when people specifically talk about it in terms of Ten Hag, it's not just an Eric Ten Hag thing. Jadon Sancho never reached his peak, what the expectation was of him under any Man United manager, whether it was Ollie, whether it was Ralph, whether it was Eric. And there's lots of different reasons for that as well. You know, even Solskjaer spoke about it when he did the overlap interview, didn't he? When he said, well, he got here and then he was out for a little while and then all this kind of stuff. Yeah, that's again, I think it's more of a Manchester United thing as opposed to just an Eric Ten Hag thing. It's a Manchester United thing. And we know the environment's not good at Manchester United as well. But I think even if it was good, I don't know if the conditions would line up to what Eric Ten Hag is look at as well, realistically. I think, like I said, I don't think it reflects totally badly on Ten Hag. I think it reflects on the state of Manchester United. We could have the same conversation about quite a few players that have come to Manchester United, couldn't we? Yeah. So I don't think, I still wouldn't have him back. I still wouldn't revisit that. I don't think it's like, oh, see, this person's a bum, this person's a bum, get him back tomorrow. Because I genuinely, if he came back to United, I still think a lot would have to change to see that version of Jadon Sancho. And some of those changes I don't foresee really ever happening at Manchester United as well, realistically. What else are people saying here in the chat? Show says, it's funny seeing people go straight away on the Eric Ten Hag defensive after seeing Sancho's performance last night. Gives an insight into their mindset. Well, in fairness, I would say I think people... Look, there's people that are very defensive about Eric Ten Hag at the moment, in my opinion, which I think is just a bit too much on the defensive, because I think if you bring up his name, you get shot down immediately and insults fly your way. But I think the people that were maybe defensive on him last night is because some of the narrative was this reflects really, really, really badly on Eric Ten Hag. And you go, does it? Does it? On him? Or is it more Man United? And is it more, cool, he should go there? I saw a lot of Man United fans with gritted teeth trying to put down Sancho's performance and try to, defend what are failings in the club as well. And to me, that just makes no sense. No sense to me. But it doesn't change my opinion on the future of Sancho or anything like that. He's doing well where he is. That's good. That's excellent. We can go get some money for selling him in the summer, to be honest with you. And that's about it. If in the Bundesliga at the weekend, I don't know who Dortmund are playing, but if he has a poor game or an average game, we won't hear about it because it won't have the attention or scrutiny, will it? Because it's a Champions League semi-final. So we shall see. We shall see how it goes out as well. Let's move on. Let's talk about, since you brought up Eric Ten Hag as well, and be sure to click the like button, by the way. We've got over 1,000 people watching. We've got 172 likes. If you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe whilst you're at it. You can see top right-hand corner there. We're at 165,000. What's that? 27 subscribers to go until 165,500. So if you haven't already, subscribe bottom right-hand corner and click that like button as well. Let's move on and talk about some quotes last night, for yesterday, from The Athletic, talking about Eric Ten Hag and talking about his future and how kind of the same line we've heard once over and over and over again about Eric Ten Hag from INEOS is that they're planning for a future with him. Now, this came from an article, as I mentioned, from Adam Crafton from The Athletic, who said that Eric Ten Hag is helped by INEOS's view that Manchester United's executive team above him did not provide him with the greatest chance to succeed, as well as a lack of clear alternatives and also the cost of firing him and hiring a replacement. For now, United continue to insist they are planning with Ten Hag in mind for next season, yet as his previous superiors have discovered, INEOS will not hesitate if it sees sufficient evidence that change is needed. So, once again, it's kind of the same line, isn't it? It's kind of the same line that we've constantly heard at the moment, which is INEOS are planning for life with Eric, not life without him. next season, and that includes, the preseason tour. That includes the which, by the way, May, June, just 2 months away, and also recruitment and what have you. But they kind of come down at the end by going, but if they feel there's a need for change, or they see that there's that they have to make a change, then they'll make it. So if you're looking for any confirmation of what INEOS are going to do when it comes to Erik ten Hag and his future, you're still not going to get it. It's still very ambiguous, isn't it? And we're just going to have to see what happens, really. There's not really much more to say about it, is there, at this point? With people still getting very angry when you bring it up, and there's still this desire to shift and focus the blame on one thing in particular, which, as I've said numerous times, for me, it's a thing that everyone has to be accountable for. If you don't get results, if you don't get performances, then the directors, which I suppose, some of the executives and directors have to be held accountable for, and they're not in a job anymore. They're gone. New people are coming in. The coaching staff in general need to be held accountable for, which they will, I think. The players need to be held accountable for, which they will. There's going to be a lot of people going this summer. Maybe not some of the names that you think should be going or you want to be going, not yet. But I think their cards are marked, really. And some people that maybe, we know they're coming to the end of their contracts, Varane's, Martial's, Casemiro is one of those names that looks like he's probably going to be going this summer. Maybe a Maguire or a Lindelof, one of them, some other players, and then you can see what happens with some, if any other offers come in, who knows, with like a Marcus Rashford. There's been talk about his future. Seemingly, everyone's got a price now, don't they, apart from a select few players, young players, and their future's pretty much locked in. Everyone's got a price, so I think they're going to be held accountable as well. And I think INEOS are seemingly keeping their options fairly open and seeing what the rest of the season does look like. I still, and I spoke about this yesterday with Flex, I still, for me, feel like, I mentioned this a few months ago, I still feel like Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sir Dave Brailsford coming through the door had their mind made on what they would do. And obviously, they're the ones that can make the decision, or certainly Sir Jim is with the Glazers. I think they had in mind what they want to do, but they've said they're going to delegate it to Omar Barada, to Dan Ashworth, to Jason Wilcox, and seemingly they're waiting to get their opinion as well, and they're not totally through the door at this point. Obviously, Jason Wilcox is. We know Omar Barada officially starts in the middle of July. Dan Ashworth we're going to be talking about in a minute. And they're going to wait and see if their opinion lines up. And also they're going to wait and see, what Jason Wilcox, now that he's, boots on the ground and he can actually talk and oversee things with Erik ten Hag there, if they're aligned together and if they're on the same page. If they're on the same page, I mentioned this yesterday too, if Jason Wilcox and Omar Barada have conversations with Ten Hag and they're like, yep, we are exactly aligned. We think the exact same things. We're on the right page. He's going to take a little bit less responsibility when it comes to recruiting. He's aware that that's not been good, and he's aware that it's not really worked out thus far, etc., etc. Then he should stay, obviously, because everyone's on the same page. But if there's any doubt about Ten Hag or his relationship with certain players at the club, or his ability to manage this club, or the tactical style, they've been talking about that as well, haven't they? Going, INEOS want to play a certain way. If there's a bit of pushback with that, if there's any issues, then they need to be addressed and they need to look elsewhere, don't they? And as I said on the Full View on Monday, and I know people get the pushback with this, but I'm just not here for the excuses. I'm not here for the excuses. I'm not here for the comparisons, that sort of the blanket, sort of lazy comparisons. Arteta got time, so that means Ten Hag should get time. And you go, okay, well, why? Like I said earlier on with the Jadon Sancho thing, why? It's very easy to go, Jadon Sancho played better last night, so that means this. You go, well, okay, why did he play better? They go, Arteta got time. Okay, why did he get time? And then when you dig a little bit deeper in, you go, it's because Edu, the technical director, he was his hire. So when things were tough, he backed his guy. You go, well, that's not the case at Manchester United because the people that are going to be above Ten Hag didn't hire him. So that's kind of puts that one out. And actually, they'll go, well, Arteta, he finished 8th twice. And you go, okay, what was sort of the points total during that period of time? And you go, well, actually, each season he got more points. And you go, right, okay, right. So let's take that one out. Or they go, well, Jurgen Klopp, he's just finishing up at Liverpool and he's been there nearly a decade. He got time, so that's why. And you go, well, okay, let's take a... Why did he get time? Let's have another look. Right. His first season, he got to a Europa League final and a League Cup final. Again, that was a half season. Season after that, 4th, Champions League. Season after that, 4th, Champions League final. Season after that, 2nd, wins the Champions League. Season after that, wins the Premier League. So it's... The comparisons are tough. This is... Each situation is unique. To Marcel's word, each situation's got their own story. And it's difficult to compare them realistically as well. Are there mitigating circumstances and factors this season? Absolutely. Of course there are. Of course there's mitigating circumstances. Of course there's injuries. Of course there's stuff off the field. Of course, the amount of different defensive combinations as well. Of course, they are mitigating circumstances, but it depends where you draw the line, isn't it? And that'll be the case with INEOS too. Where do they draw the line? Do they say that, yep, that's valid enough? There's been a lot going on. The season's been a lot of turmoil, and also with the INEOS buying in, or Sir Jim Ratcliffe buying into Manchester United, there's been a lot going on. Let's start fresh next season with you in charge. We'll give you a go. Or do they go like some people are saying when they're like, well, injuries, I totally get that, but we've played 3 championship sides recently and we haven't done very well. We beat Sheffield United. Everyone's been doing that, but we couldn't beat Coventry in normal time. We couldn't beat Burnley at home. Like, that's what's going on there. Like, even with the injuries we've got, those players should be good enough to do that. Why not? And that's not to say that those players, so you're saying those players should stay. No, a lot of those players should go, and I think they will because they need to. They're not good enough. But some of them are international players, and they should be good enough to beat bottom of the table sides that are going to be in the Championship next season as well. So it's still very open-ended, really, isn't it? Very open-ended. INEOS are like, they're planning for the future, business as usual. They were business as usual with John Murtough. Then John Murtough left. So we're just going to have to wait and see. I think one thing's pretty clear with INEOS at the moment, isn't it? Is they keep everything very close. They keep things very close. A lot of stuff doesn't get out, not to the level that it did previously. When Omar Barada was hired, it was like it just came out. Omar Barada's the new CEO of Man United. You're like, what? What happened there? Even with the Jason Wilcox stuff, we knew we were going for him. I think, and even that was like, well, talks are ongoing, maybe. And then it was just like, boom, it's done. Yeah, he's effective immediately. And then he's at Wembley like a couple of days later. It's that fast. So I think that maybe a very small select group of people really know what they want to do. And then maybe part of it, the decision legitimately hasn't been made. They're very keen on, I think, what did Jim Ratcliffe say when he said we'd rather walk to the right outcome or walk to the right destination than run to a wrong choice or sprint to a wrong choice. I'm paraphrasing there. So maybe they don't want to do a rush to judgment there, which is probably the wise thing to do, considering it's a very, very, very big decision as well, isn't it? So, yeah, that's the latest when it comes to INEOS and Erik ten Hag as well. Let me see what people are saying here at the moment. Ibrahim says, yes, you may be right, Owen, but using your logic, we can do this all day. Compare Arteta and Klopp. Yes, then also look at mitigating circumstances. We can go on and on. I'm not really sure the point you're sort of making there. My point is that I think we've got to do more than blanket comparisons. Just this. You have to look into the reason why as well. You have to look into why, basically. I think when using those comparisons, because just to blanket say that, or just to blanket say we got to break the cycle, and you go, okay, what's the cycle? Getting rid of managers very quickly, and you go, okay. Do you think that maybe that we had a new cycle when INEOS started because new people are coming in? No. Okay. And then, of course, and this is the crazy thing, and I think we're very high strung at the moment, aren't we? We're very high strung, and because it just descends into insults. So I said the other day, you're a traitor. You're a traitor. Why? Because everyone should be held accountable. So you are a traitor. Okay, right, cool. Yeah, that's the case with it. But that's the latest when it comes to Ten Hag and INEOS as well. Where am I at with the super chats here at the moment? I think I'm caught up. Indeed, I am. Where are we at with the likes at the moment as well? We're at 230 likes. So if you haven't already, be sure to click the like button. Let's see if we can get those likes up. Let's get up to like 300, 350 or something like that this morning. A reminder as well, later on today, there's going to be What the Devil at 6, but also I believe there's a press conference today. Speaking of Ten Hag, I do think there is a press conference today. I think it's at 1:15, 1:30, something like that. Usually, recently when we play, by the way, sometimes the press conferences are really difficult to pin down with Erik Ten Hag and Manchester United. Sometimes they're on a Friday, sometimes they're on a Thursday, sometimes they're at 1:45, 1:30, sometimes they're at midday, sometimes they're at 11:30. They kind of do bounce around all over the place. But I think the press conference is today, I think at like 1:15, 1:30. So I'll be live basically later on. That's just a reminder for that. Probably at like 2, something like that. Probably 2 maybe, something like that. So keep an eye out for that. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe as well. Click the notification bell. You'll be notified as well when we go live for that as well. We've got here Ten Hag out channel for sure. That's the other one. That's one of my favorite ones at the moment. You're Ten Hag out. Just admit it. Just admit it. What does that mean? What does that even mean? I don't know. I just say it. I want you to say it, please. Just say it. You've just admit it. Admit it. Like, okay. Like what? For me, and I can honestly, and this is what's crazy. They say give your opinion. If you give your opinion, you get shouted at. If you just play it neutral and say there's both sides to this, you're sitting on the fence. If you give another opinion, you're deluded. You're a traitor. It's very, very... And I do genuinely think that I think a lot of United fans are just very tired by it as well. I think that's like really just tired by the constant... Like, it's almost to this point, if you have even like in the street, if you were having a conversation with someone and they said... what do you think about like Man United at the moment, and what do you think is going to happen with the manager? And you go, I tell you what, you can kind of already feel like the eyes going, like what? You go, I think everyone should be accountable for poor results. Don't single out the manager, for God's sake. Why are you not talking about the players enough? You're like, oh man, you talk 45 minutes. About the players. These players are terrible. They need to go. So many people need to go. This player needs to go. That player needs to go. That player needs to go. You're not talking about the players enough. You're not doing it. Like, what? It's just, you're going to have to wait and see what happens. It's this, it is nuts. It is really, really nuts. We'll talk about Dan Ashworth in just a second. Astro Hayes said, Owen, if you stayed, would you personally be happy? Don't play the flex card of our back the INEOS decision. Would I be happy? Well, I got in trouble for this the other day on the Full-Time View, and I'd recommend people to go watch it. Because my point was, for a lot of things, was that it's nuanced. It's nuanced. If Erik Ten Hag stays... that would be because he's totally aligned with INEOS. Everyone's on the same page and they have a good summer transfer window. That would mean hopefully Manchester United would be succeeding. I'm happy if Man United succeed. I'm not tied to anyone. And the players, manager, whatever, player FC, manager FC, I've got no attachment. I really don't. I just want Manchester United to succeed. I just want Manchester United to win, to go back to what happened in the past where we used to succeed. I don't think we'll ever get to the point like we were under Sir Alex Ferguson again. I realise I'm very, very spoiled in that regard. That was I grew up with Man United winning the league every single season or every other season and a trophy every single season. I don't know if we'll ever get back to that, but Like, in the same way, if Erik ten Hag got sacked, I wouldn't be like screaming, yes, he's gone, Erik ten Hag's... No, I wouldn't be doing that. I find that behaviour quite bizarre, really. Like I said with Sancho earlier on, like last night, with people like celebrating because he was playing well, or if he didn't do well, celebrating that. That's just like, what? I just want Man United to win. Because that's all I want. I don't get it. I really don't understand that. Squam says it's a simple yes or no question. But for me, I don't know if it is. Would I be happy if he stayed? I'd be happy if he stayed. Yeah, yes, I would be happy. There you go. I'd be happy if he stayed. Yes, because that would mean that INEOS think he's the right guy and everyone's on the same page and they can move forward. I'd be happy if he stayed. I'd be happy if whatever happens. I just want to move on. Really, I do. I'm just like, I just want to get into next season with a transfer window behind us, and then we can just like leave it, Yeah. But at the same time, I don't want him to stay if he's not aligned with the people above him, because I don't think that's a recipe for success. I really don't. As we've seen at lots of other clubs, and as we've seen with Ten Hag in the past. Ten Hag, his most successful time at Ajax is when he was totally aligned with the people above him. So that's why I say, if INEOS don't think he's the right guy, then they should go. Then they should get rid of him. It's the same. If they don't think any of these players are the right players, then they should get rid of him. I don't think he's a bad coach. I don't. Same way that Jadon Sancho. I never thought he was rubbish. Never thought Erik ten Hag was rubbish. That's what's bizarre as well. When you criticise some of the decisions, you're saying Ten Hag's a shit coach. No, no, of course not. But yeah, I'm not attached to any player or any manager or anything like that. I want Manchester United on all levels to succeed. And I'm very conscious that's not going to happen overnight. If Erik ten Hag sticks around, we're not going to win the league next season or Champions League. If Erik ten Hag gets the sack, we're not going to win the league or the Champions League next season. The club is rotten, absolute rotten, and it needs a total reset. And it's just going to be a case of how many survivors there are. And you could even argue, if Man United do win the league in 5 years' time or something like that, will anyone that's currently here be there then? Maybe not. But in the same way that we spoke earlier on about the environment and the conditions for Jadon Sancho to succeed, maybe you could say that the environment and conditions aren't there for Erik ten Hag to succeed either. It doesn't make him bad. Doesn't make him a bad coach. People do that as well with people that are sacked. This person got sacked, so he must be terrible. Not necessarily at all. But yes, but you'll never be able to convince people as well. So there you go. A little bit about Dan Ashworth as well. This was another part of this Athletic piece, saying that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has told Manchester United staff that he is confident Dan Ashworth will soon be joining the club. Ashworth is taking his current club, Newcastle United, to arbitration in a bid to expedite his move to Manchester and become the new sporting director, which I thought was an interesting kind of line there. It was almost a bit lost in the article because one would have thought, with this whole gardening leave and what have you, that it was going to take a lot of time. He's not going to be here until maybe next year. He's not going to be here until after the summer transfer window or what have you. The latest update with the arbitration thing, wasn't it, that was going to be taking place in May, might last a couple of weeks. He might find something out at the end of June. My kind of prediction with it was that Newcastle are never going to get what they're looking for, 15 or 20 million. I'd be stunned if an arbitrator said that, unless there was language in his original contract that said, give figures, but I can't imagine that would be the case. And I found it also very curious that once the news came out about Dan Ashworth taking this whole thing to arbitration, then next thing you know, a story comes out with Newcastle going, we've never asked for 15 or 20 million. We've never done that. We've never ever done that. And you go, oh, that sounds quite a lot of backtracking, isn't it? That sounds like a lot of backtracking, because if the arbitrator is meant to be, an independent third party, looks at the arguments of both sides, and he could easily look at Newcastle's demands and go, these are ridiculous. Well, what are you talking about? This guy has got a job offer. He wants to work. let's call it 5 million or something like that. Let's call it this, and you have to agree to that. So I suppose it's still just a case of when he would come in, whether he would come in. I still don't see the summer transfer window. My feeling has always been, I don't know if it would necessarily be the beginning of next year. It seems to be quite far, doesn't it? But maybe it'll be a thing of, well, he's got sensitive information on our sort of recruitment strategy and what have you. Maybe he comes in after the window ends, so at the beginning of September or something like that. But I don't think they're not going to get 15 or 20 million or any kind of number along those kind of lines. I think the United figure that they've offered is something like, was it 2? And so it's a pretty big gap, isn't it, between what they want. I do think Newcastle might be playing. They're probably playing a bit of hardball because they're a bit pissed off with the whole situation too. Let's face it. They brought this guy in and they thought he was going to be part of their project for the next however many years. And then sort of 18 months into the process, he's decided, no, I'm going to go to Man United. I'm going to go to a bigger club. And that's probably pissed them off too with the way that that's happened. So they're like, we want 15, 20 million. That's what we want. We want 15, 20 million pounds. And they can delay whilst they look for their own replacement, because that's another part of it as well. If it goes to arbitration, they'll go, have you got someone else in his position? And I think there's a couple of people that are lined up. They're saying it should be pretty soon that happens. That could speed up and expedite the situation too. But as far as him being in place for the summer, I don't think he'll be in place for the summer. But I don't think as well it'll be 2025 by the time Dan Ashworth starts at Manchester United. I think it'll probably be after the summer transfer window, maybe something along those lines. But Ratcliffe seemingly is hopeful, and as we spoke about the arbitration thing before, didn't we? That I'm sure there are Manchester United and Dan Ashworth have all consulted various employment lawyers, and they go, no, you can go to arbitration, get out of that quicker. 2025, 15, 20 million pounds, bullshit. You could go to them. You'll speed the whole thing up. And Man United might have a figure in mind as well, because they're definitely not going to pay 15 or 20 million. That's that's absolutely the case. What are we at in terms of super chats as well? Treble Champ says, I'm sick and tired of the bizarre Erik ten Hag defense force. We should be talking on the manager. It's not good enough and he should absolutely be sacked. People are shaking of what's staring them in the face. Well, look, I think with this as well, and again, this is what I get back to. People are absolutely right to have their opinions and valid. If people think that Erik ten Hag's the right guy and he should be here next season, and these other things are mitigating circumstances, that's just as valid as someone that says that they think that he's not the right guy and he should go. I think it's healthy. It's healthy to have debate, and it's healthy to have point and counterpoint. What's for me unhealthy is when you try to have that, or you try to put out there an opinion and people just jump down your throat, insults, blah, blah, blah. That's when you go, well, what are we doing here? That to me is not healthy kind of debate. I think it's a polarizing subject and it's a polarizing debate. That's what's happening so much, because there are people with different opinions, and that's fine. That's totally fine. If your opinion there, Treble Champ, is that he should be sacked and Man United should look in a different direction, that's totally valid. There'll be people that say they disagree with that. That's totally valid as well. What I do think is there should be more open-mindedness. I think there should be more open-mindedness to have those kind of debates, and not just sort of staunch, nope, I'm not listening. I'm not listening at all. And because it's the same on both sides of the argument, isn't it? You get people that are very staunchly defensive whenever you bring his name up, and you get people that are very staunchly defensive of if you say, well, maybe that's kind of out of his hands. They go, no, it's all in his hands. You go, well, that's probably not completely fair, is it? There should be room for debate and discussion. And unfortunately, this isn't the first time with Man United, is it? Unfortunately, there doesn't appear to be that's allowed. It was the same with, like it is with Eric, like we spoke about Sancho earlier on, Ronaldo, De Gea, Pogba. It's always the same, isn't it? It's always the same. And I think probably part of it stems from, where Manchester United are at the moment. And instead of putting it maybe in sort of a positive direction, we just sort of take it out on each other, which is quite strange. But that's kind of what we do, isn't it? Which, again, is unfortunate. And also as well, I think if you talk to some Man United fans, I've spoken about this myself, there are people that aren't here or here as well. There are people that are here or here. Like, there's different parts of it as well. There's people that, like I said before, if the Erik ten Hag's here at the beginning of next season, I'm not going to cry and be like, oh no, it should be gone, or anything like that. I'll be like, well, let's all come together. Let's have a good transfer window, and let's hope it all gets turned around. If he goes, I'm going to be like, right, I kind of what I thought. It's a complete and total reset. Everybody's going. Players are going to be going as well. This is a new time for Manchester United. Whether it's going to be good, we don't know. Whether it's going to be bad, we don't know. But it's new, and you've got to get behind it. Even if it was Gareth Southgate, I've spoken so much about Gareth Southgate, and I don't know how I'll be able to get behind that one. But as a Man United fan, I probably have no choice, isn't it? That's what it is. So, yeah, I just think that, like I said, and this is hardly new, is it? But it's the age of debating, the age of discussing. It's just gone, isn't it? It turns into insults, which is quite unfortunate. It's quite unfortunate, but there you go. Anyway, guys, that's the morning view for you this morning as well. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As I mentioned, more to come today. There is going to be a press conference, so I'll be live, I think, around 2 o'clock for that. And also, there'll be What the Devil, the United District guys. We'll be talking about a variety of Manchester United topics as well, so be sure to check that out at 6 p.m. too. Tomorrow, we'll have, of course, the morning show once again, and then the Trinity episode. What is it? Is it 14? I think it's 14 at this point. 14 weeks. My gosh, 14. Episode 14. Flex, KG, and myself will be doing our usual things as well. So be sure to check that out. That's Friday, 6 p.m. Saturday's a really fun video. Saturday's a really fun one. It's the Manchester United price list with Flex and KG, where Flex kind of spoke about this. I haven't seen this yet, so there's no spoilers because I haven't seen it. But it's just going through the whole squad, or the majority of the squad, and just going, how much are they worth? Since everybody's got a price, as the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, you say, everyone's got a price. So if every player's got a price, what is their price? So that'll be coming out on Saturday as well. And then Sunday, we'll have a match preview, the full view. And then Monday will be match day as well, playing on a Monday, Bank Holiday Monday against Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park. So plenty to come. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, click that like button, and I'll see you again later on. I'm out of here. Peace.